Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for coming on Ignite Africa. Tell us your name, please, and what you do.
My name is Ibrahim. I'm the Global Head of Advisory and Capital Market for Afrexim Bank. We're a DFI out of Cairo, and we are a multilateral financial institution focused on trade enablement across the continent.
So you just got the award for the best listing in Africa, best listing company in Africa. How does that make you feel right now?
Well, this has been a great privilege and a great moment for the bank, and we were most honored and humbled to receive this award, which was within a quite competitive list of candidates and nominees. At the same time, this pride we have is really a testimony of the vision our leadership, starting with our president, has had for this listing, because we are probably in the entire world the only development finance institution that has listed its DR. There's been only a previous case of one institution from Latin America that did it. So in terms of Africa realization, it's a first in Africa, because not only as a DFI, in the DFI space, there's no other DFI that's doing it from the continent. We're the only one that has done it. And furthermore, our President Orama has insisted all along that we make sure in our mandate to develop the continent and develop the capital market, this listing takes place in Africa. So the senior management has really, in this effort, demonstrated the importance of keeping the continent as prime focus, and also the advisors we use are all majorly from the African continent. So, which further demonstrate that the continent has the resources, has the means to achieve the best. So today, obviously, the proof in the pudding, where we were competing with a variety of African companies, some listed on the continent, some not, some using foreign advisors, some not. Our choices have reaped the benefit that we were expecting.
Great. So now that you've had the best listing company, what's the next step? What's the driving force again, and what's the next thing that you intend to achieve again as a company? What's the next thing that you want your team to look forward to?
Thank you. The bank just celebrated its 25th anniversary, and the journey has been quite extraordinary. We have crossed the $11 billion balance sheet size last year. In terms of country membership, today, from our early days when there was only 20 or so member countries, we have 50 participating member countries out of 54. And basically, we have only 4 more countries to add in our base.
Okay.
Furthermore, our growth has been robust under the leadership of our president, who took helm in 2015, where our balance sheet was $6 billion at the time, and today we are over $11 billion. Our target for 2021 basically double that amount. And there is a lot of work we have ahead of us. So this milestone is one we celebrate with all the required humility, but it means that we must not rest on our laurels, because the continent is today undergoing a transition point where the importance of having transformation, industrialization, must be at the center of its next chapter. And our strategy established for the next few years in 2015 has 4 pillars, and 2 of them are around. One is industrialization, A second is intra-Africa trade. So every day we wake up, our bank is focused on making sure that these 4 pillars, 2 of them I've just listed, get realized. So one of the numbers we always try to improve on a daily basis is the intra-Africa trade, which is a number that is within Africa, which is a number under 15%, when most of the continent have a 50% typical average. So the path ahead is massive. But if you can understand that that is the most significant point and challenge we have for our evolution, then you can understand how much work is left. Because being a legacy of colonization, most of our trade, most of our infrastructure, most of our habits reside with a direction offshore with our former colonizing party. So you need to think about it as when they left just a system to allow you to do what you used to do, which is take the natural resource they came to get from your home back to their home. The banking sectors in most of those countries follow also the ownership of older colonization structure. The ports, the logistic still belongs to the former colonizing party. The roads to your neighbor is not constructed, but the port to take the ship to the former colonizer is in place. So the old habits after 50 years have not changed. They are still designed around trading with the old colonial master. So the habits that exist today, as my president liked to say, are not by accident. So to change it also must not be by accident. It must be by design. And that's why every day we wake up, we are focused on that mission. And we understand that our focus needs to reside around changing the current reality, not in terms of just the narrative, because I think the story of the African potential is now quite well heard across the globe, but we need to evolve from a potential story to an actual reality. And that's where I think most of the energies of the bank and colleagues are around. So we've completed this listing in Mauritius. We're working towards dual listing. We also are, as a bank, have seen our strategy and action go from a credit-only bank move to one of a risk-bearing provision. Those are guarantees, and now fee income, like this activity, where as a bank we want to be a catalyst of development by actually front-loading the risk-taking, whether you do it by a guarantee or organizing transaction where, because we reside in Africa, because we own majority by African countries, show the direction and basically point to more dollars towards the continent. And that's really where our mind is today. We have the luxury of benefiting from a variety of shareholders. We're structured with 4 classes of shareholders. Class A are countries, African countries. Those 50 I've listed. Class B are African companies. And you have groups like Dangote and Africa Development Bank, TDB, who are shareholders. But then you also have investment managers, a prestigious one from South Africa called PIC as a shareholder within this Class B. Class C, you have basically in the industry of Exim Bank, which is what we do, Export-Import Bank. The leading countries in the emerging market are shareholders via their Exim Bank. So when you take the word BRIC, Except for Brazil, you have China, you have Russia, you have India. Those EXIMs are all shareholders in the bank. And beside them at the international level, you have Citibank, Standard Chartered, HSBC, and a long list. So within that diversity of shareholders, we're able to achieve a lot. But a year ago, roughly almost to this quarter, we listed the bank in Mauritius to allow the public to hold shares via a DR program. So we really think that that variety allows us to be a unique vehicle to provide the required change on the continent.
Thank you for that amazing response. So my next question now will be for African youth or emerging African CEOs. What would be that one key advice that you would like to give them, that you think would really help them to be able to also get to this kind of position where they become a best listing or where they have the best management, best CEOs as well? So what advice would you give young emerging African CEOs when it comes to building up their company or their investment as well?
That's a very good question. I think in the professional life, it is important to remember that most people will rely on you, or actually will count on you, for either your technical expertise, your reliability, or your loyalty. One of the most valuable one ends up your technical ability. So that is something that is important for young people to build in, because that is a differentiating factor from experience, training, that is not easily replicable, although it can become a commodity. The fact of being reliable and loyal, those are inbuilt in human beings. But also those people can be replaced. But when you evolve and manage to stay in an institution long enough, and you become a manager and a leader, a senior leader, then a CEO, the most important trait that is important for the continuity of your surrounding, of your environment, is actually inspiring energy to your colleagues to go through the next day. Because basically, that's what makes a difference between one leader and another, because the tomorrow, the path ahead, is unclear. The challenge you face are very clear in your mind. Someone that can get you to remove that temporary challenge, bring the energy you need to look beyond it and keep pushing, is a critical trait for young CEOs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So just like you mentioned, you will be needed for your technicability, your reliability, and your loyalty. And they need to build in those three aspects. That's very powerful and very insightful. I can thank you much for these words of wisdom, and hopefully young CEOs and young African entrepreneurs out there will hold on to these words and also use it to get themselves to a point where they will be able to say, okay, now we have reached a milestone as well. Thank you very much again. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, sir. So are you based in New York? Oh, you said
I'm based in Cairo.
Cairo.